Alone in the office. The sound of the rain tapping against the windows was the only thing breaking the silence of the dark, empty office building. Jane sat at her desk, her eyes scanning over the never-ending pile of paperwork. She had been working late every night this week, trying to get everything done before the deadline. The only problem was that she was completely alone. She had been promised that the night guard would be there to keep her company, but he never showed up. Every night she had been there, she was alone. It wasn't too bad at first, but now she was starting to feel like she was being watched. At first it was just a feeling, an unease that would wash over her every so often, but then she started hearing strange noises, footsteps that seemed to follow her every time she moved from one room to the other, doors creaking open and shut, even though she knew she was the only one there. She tried to ignore it, telling herself it was just her imagination playing tricks on her. But then she started seeing things. Shadows moving just out of the corner of her eye. Things that would disappear as soon as she would turn to face them. She was scared, but she also knew she couldn't leave. Not until she finished her work. So she pressed on, her mind filled with images of the strange things she had seen and heard. One night, as she was about to leave, she noticed that one of the doors was slightly ajar. She had never seen it open before. She approached it cautiously, her heart pounding in her chest. As she pushed it open, she was met with darkness. She fumbled for the light switch, her hands shaking, but when she finally found it and flipped it on, nothing happened. She took a step inside and then another. The door shut behind her, the sound echoing through the room. Suddenly the lights flickered on, revealing a room that was unlike any other in the building. The walls were covered in strange symbols and the air was thick with a sickly sweet smell. In the center of the room was a large stone pedestal, upon which sat a book. Jane approached it slowly, her hand reaching out to touch the cover, but before her fingers could make contact, the book suddenly opened, the pages flipping rapidly until they stopped on a page filled with writing. It was in a language she had never seen before, but somehow she could understand it. It told the story of a powerful evil that had been trapped within the book, bound there by a spell. But now the spell was starting to weaken and the evil was once again free to roam the world. Jane stumbled back, her mind racing. She had to get out of here. She had to find help, but when she turned to leave, she found that the door was gone. She was trapped with no escape from the evil that was slowly starting to consume her. She screamed for help, her voice echoing through the empty building, but no one came. The evil continued to grow, filling the room with a darkness that threatened to consume her. And then, just as suddenly as it had started, it was over. Jane found herself back at her desk, the book gone and the door to the strange room once again closed. She sat there stunned, trying to make sense of what had just happened. As the days went by, Jane started to notice she was changing. She became increasingly isolated, her behavior growing erratic and unpredictable. Her colleagues and friends started to avoid her, sensing something was not right. One night, as she was working late in the office, the strange occurrences began again. She heard the footsteps and doors creaking and saw the shadows moving in the corners of her eyes. She felt the evil inside her grow stronger and she knew that she was losing control. She tried to fight it, but it was too strong. It consumed her completely and she became its puppet. She began to do its bidding, wreaking havoc and terror throughout the city. People started to vanish, their bodies never found. The authorities were powerless against the evil that Jane had become. No one knew what to do, and the city was consumed by fear. And one night, a small group of people came together. A coven. They were armed with ancient spells and incantations, and came forward to face the evil. They confronted Jane, battling the evil inside of her, and after a long and grueling struggle, they finally managed to break its hold over her. Jane was free. She quit her job shortly after that, and she disappeared into obscurity, never to be heard from again.